Hi, I'm Jason. This plant right here, this is Salvia apiana, and I'm going to show you how to prune it. It is June here in California, so it's the summer, and this is when you will prune the flowers, or the spent flowers. So what you'll have, like late spring to early summer, is you'll have these white flowers on these spikes, and that they eventually go to look like this, where the flowers, they pretty much, they finished, and you have these spikes. These are the seed pods. So the plant is putting its energy into making seed. And as you can see, they just go down until you get to some foliage. And so what I'm going to do to keep the growth habit compact, and also to redirect the plant's energy into foliage growth and not so much seeds, is this. I do have another video on seed saving Salvia apiana, so please feel free to check that out. If you're, whether you are or whether you're not going to harvest the seed, this is how I prune the spikes. So here we go. So what you'll do is you'll notice that you have your spent flower spike, and as you go down, what you'll see is you'll see leaves, and then you'll just see leaves, and then there's the flower spikes, for the most part, stop. So what I do is you want to get a clean and sharp pair of pruning shears, and you want to do this in dry weather, not in wet weather, and you want to do this once the flowers are spent. If you're going to harvest seed, I'd recommend waiting a couple more weeks to let some of those seed develop before you harvest them and then dry them. But here we go. This is how we prune your plant back into shape. So we have your flower spike come down until you get to leaves. And so I'm just going to go a tiny bit further, maybe just like another node down. And so what you do is you get your shears, sharp shears, because you don't want to crush, you want to just slice through this. You're going to make, on a downward angle, a cut just above a leaf node. And a leaf node is, it's where the leaves come out. And so what they call this here, this is opposite. The leaves are on opposite sides of the stem. So you'll just go like that. Here we go. And so what you're going to do is you're going to do that for all of these spent flower spikes. You're going to cut the spikes off. And what you can also do is you could even go, as you can see here, you can go a little bit further if you want. As you can see, we've got some foliage down here. That's eventually where I want to bring it. I do try not to prune more than a third of any plant in the garden in one session, just as not to stress it out too much. And do remember, this plant, it does need the leaves to photosynthesize, so don't cut past the growth. So if you're going down and you get to just like, see here, it's just like stem, 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 stem. Don't cut there, only cut where you found growth, like we did before, right here. Where'd we go? There's our cut. See, I cut right before the growth, but you never want to cut after the growth. In other words, like you don't want to cut in the middle of the stem, above the node, and you don't want to cut, so yeah, don't cut where there's no growth below the stem. The plant, I mean, some of the stems may not have a lot of growth beneath the stem, so I just cut it. And do know it is common sometimes for like the whole stem to die back. These plants put a lot of energy into the seed production, so it does happen. So don't worry. Just if that happens, just cut the spent stem off. But yeah, dry weather, do it like this, and you can even prune to shape. What I would do is I make this cut here, and as you can see, the foliage is a little bit lower here, and then you come up, and then here's where we made our cut. I'll wait like a week or two, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll cut this spike. Whoops, where'd it go? I'll cut this right here, and I'll cut it down like another, like 10 inches, so that all of the new growth is coming from the same place, so that you have a very rounded plant and not one with just different levels of growth coming out of it, which is also can be nice too if that's what you want. Whatever sparks joy. But yeah, as you can see here, the growth is below the flower spikes. I like to cut the spikes down to the growth so that they can all grow together and make a very rounded, mounded form. But yeah, and if you do want to harvest the leaves for making smudge sticks, the summer can be a good time to do that because the oils in the leaves are more concentrated, because the plant is using a lot more water for photosynthesis, and the leaves they're more concentrated in the oil in the summer, as opposed to the spring where there's been a lot of moisture throughout the winter and the fall, and then even in the spring. So the leaves have a higher water content. In the summer, they have a lower water content, which makes them better for smudging. Just really don't take more than a third in one session because you don't want to stress the plant out. In California, we get these really intense heat waves. If you're going to harvest in the summer, I'd recommend checking your weather forecast and doing it, on a cool streak week, or at least a week where there's no over 100 heat wave days, because you don't want to stress the plant out by taking foliage, which the plant uses to shade the ground, to retain moisture, as well as photosynthesize to keep the leaves cool. So you don't want to take too much in the summer. It also is a good idea if you wanted to harvest for white sage smudge sticks. You can also do that very late summer, early fall, where the weather's starting to cool, but it's not super cool, so you still have that concentration of oil in the leaves. But yeah, that's also another time, late summer, very, very early fall, and if you want to harvest a little bit more of the white sage leaves and also give it a little bit more shape, that's another good time to do it. If you prune back the plant by a third, I'd wait a couple weeks before you prune a little bit more. But yeah, be a little bit gentle with this plant. The leaves are yellowing. Some of the stems that you cut, some of these that you cut off, the whole stem does die back. Sometimes it's normal. The thing that you don't want is your whole plant dying back, which shouldn't happen. But anyways, if you have any more questions on pruning Salvia apiana, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And once again, my name is Jason. Thanks for hanging out.